Hey guys, thanks for joining me for an episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at the newest entry into the Tiny Epic series, Tiny Epic Quests. This is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 45 minutes to an hour and a half to play, depending upon the number of players you're playing with. And it is a competitive game, so each of the players is working against the other players to gain the most points to be the overall winner at the end of the game. So in the game itself, portals have opened up into the realm and goblins are spewing out. And as the players, you're taking on the role of epic heroes that are going into the realm, raiding different temples, gaining special items, finding legendary items, worshipping at the different shrines to increase your magical powers, fighting goblins, and of course you want to be the best at this and prove that you are the best hero, so you're going to be competing with the other heroes to prove that as well. So my opinions of this game so far, I've really enjoyed a lot of the games in the Tiny Epic series. I feel like each one of them brings its own unique style to the game table. Each one is completely different, so if you buy one, you're not necessarily knowing exactly what all of them are like. Each one brings its own unique flair and flavor to the table, and they're all very uniquely themed. So you have like the Western one, the space one, you have this one, you have a number of them in the fantasy setting, and each one of those brings different elements as well. So if you haven't had a chance to check out any of their games yet, I would highly recommend it. They do make some really interesting games. And of course, they're in tiny boxes, so it's easy to transport them around as well. So other than that, like I said, I really did enjoy this one. It again brings the epicness to the table where you're going to be going on these adventures and competing with the other players. You're rolling dice, so I really enjoy that part of it. You get to push your luck depending upon how far you want to adventure, when to rest, when to really try to push to gain that last spot in the temple so you can get a new item or work on your legendary items. And there's a lot of strategy to it, whether you're choosing to go heavy into fighting goblins or completing quests or all the other different things, going heavy on spells. There's a lot of different options and ways that players can win the game, and I really enjoy that. As far as negatives, I haven't really seen any myself personally. Another really cool thing is that they have their own trademarked little meeples that can hold items now. They're called item meeples. And they can actually hold items in each hand, which is really interesting and cool and a really neat little thing that they've done, which they're going to be including in later games as well. For those of you that may have backed their Tiny Epic Zombie series. So without further ado, let's go ahead and head to the table and I'll teach you guys how to play. There's a set of 5 adventuring dice included in the game. Each of these dice is going to have different sides, which are Goblin Attack, Goblins, Power, Magic, Torches, and Scrolls. And we're going to go into detail about each of these faces and how they affect the players later in the game. The quest deck is comprised of 2 different types of quests. You have movement quests and treasure quests. Each of these quests is going to have the name of the quest at the top, and then the objectives or criteria that you need to meet in order to complete the quest, and then the rewards that are listed in the bottom for that. Moving over to the map cards now, each map card is broken into a left and right region. And each region is going to have a location for the heroes to be placed. So for example, with the castle, the heroes will go down here, and there is no limit to the amount of heroes that can be in there. Then we have the spell obelisk, which the heroes will go into this location, and you can only have one of each color, as you guys can see on that icon. Then we have the mushroom grottos, and again the heroes will be placed down here, and you can only have one of each color there, and then you can do the ability that is listed there. Then we have goblin portals. Only one hero can go here, and with the goblin portals you'll also have a goblin token, which as the hero does damage you're going to turn that token around until you get to the red skull, in which point then you have killed that goblin. You can remove the token and add it to your player board. And I'll cover that more later. Then we have temples. Our heroes are always going to start at the top of a temple, and then I'll explain how this works later on. Finally, we have on the back of each of the cards is going to be a variant that you guys will be able to find more details on in the back of the rulebook. For player setup, each player is going to choose a color they want to play as, and then they'll get their player board, which is going to have a bunch of information on it. At the top of the player board, it's going to track the player's health and power. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to set their max health at 6 and their max power at 3. They can also place their power token and health token on there. Then it's also going to give you a quick reference to how you can calculate your max power and max health throughout the game as you gain magic and defeat the goblins. Then each player is also going to gain the 3 magic legendary items, which are the sword, shield, and staff. As the players complete quests, they'll be able to move those items along the track, and when they completed the second quest, then they'll unlock that item, and they can equip it to one of their custom meeples' hands. Players will also going to get a magic token that they're going to use to track their magic level, and a quick reference card for adventure and rest, and we'll cover how that works a little bit more later. For the magic board setup, you first off choose whether you're playing a 2 to 4 player game, or on the back side of this is a single player game. From there, then you can place the magic mushroom token on the very first spot of the track, and then the players that are playing can also place their magic tokens on the side there. Throughout the game, the players are going to be able to gain magic levels, which are denoted at the bottom here, magic level 1 all the way up to 10. And at the end of the game, the players that are higher on the track, we're going to gain points based on their spell levels as well. Finally, we have the adventure track, which is going to track which round it is for the players. So you're going to place the adventure token on there on the first space, and then the game is played over 5 rounds. And this is also a quick reference guide for the players to know how many points they're going to get at the end of the game based on the magic level they are, quests they've completed, and goblins they've killed. And they also get bonus points for the legendary items that they've collected. So let's go ahead and move into setup now. So first off, I've gone ahead and used one of the mats that you can purchase for Tiny Epic Quest. It really does help and adds to the overall immersion of the game. But you guys can choose also not to and just set it up on a regular board following the same instructions. So the first thing we're going to do is place out the magic card and the magic mushroom on the very first slot, and then each of the players will have their magic token that they're going to place on the left side of that board. Then we can go ahead and place out the round track board and place the round tracker on the first spot of that board. We can also place out all the movement cards for the start of the game. Then you can go ahead and grab the quest deck, shuffle it up, and deal out 3 starting quests. You're going to need at least 1 treasure quest and 1 movement quest. If you don't have that, then you can go ahead and slide them all over, moving the last one off and dealing out a new one, and placing the last one on the bottom of that stack until you meet those requirements of having at least 1 of the both types. Then you can go ahead and grab your map tiles. We're going to go ahead and make the map now. Separate the 4 kingdom tiles from your deck. Go ahead and shuffle up the rest of these. And you're going to deal them out in a specific order. So you're going to go ahead and start in the center and make a plus sign on your board. And again, you're going to use the green side for the games unless you're playing an advanced game. From there, then you're going to go ahead and place out the 4 kingdoms in the corners. And then last, you're going to go back to your stack and place out the remaining set of cards. From there, then you can go ahead and grab the goblin tokens, and you're going to place out 7 of them in the 7 different goblin realms with the little arrows touching each other. So the goblin tokens are face up. Any remaining tokens you have, you can go ahead and place them off to the side of the board or in the goblin zone if you have the mats. From there, then you can place out the items rack with all the items, the 12 items on it. Or again, if you have the board, you can place those out on the top corner of the board up here. Next, each player is going to grab their meeples and place it out in their starting kingdom matching their color. The last thing we need to do is choose a starting player, and you can do this in any manner you want. So we're going to go ahead and have the red player start, and you're always going to have the quest side face up versus the non-quest side. And I'll explain how this works later on. Tiny Epic Quest is played over 5 rounds, with each round consisting of 2 phases, a day phase and a night phase. At the end of the 5th round, players are going to total up their points, and the player with the highest amount of points is going to be the overall winner of the game. The day phase consists of 4 turns, starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise around the table. During a turn, a player is going to select one of the movement cards by sliding it up, and then either moving one of the heroes onto a region of a new map card using the travel method depicted on the movement card, or remaining idle and not moving. When a hero moves, they must always move to a different map card. The hero cannot be moved to a region of the same map card that they're already on, And when moving across any number of cards, your hero is considered to be moving through each card between the start and the finish locations. So let's go ahead and start with red here. He is going to go ahead and make that first selection as he is the first player, so we're going to go ahead and select the raft. This is going to allow him and each other player to move one of the heroes in a vertical direction along the board. So from here, then he could choose to move to any one of these map tiles except for the one he starts on. So let's go ahead and move him down one, and he's going to go into this region, as each time you enter a new card, when it's your final location, you're going to choose which region to be in. So he could go into this region to try to get a higher level spell, or he'd come over here and try to complete this temple. From there, after he has selected his hero and moved him, then it'll move to the next player, which is the blue player. So the blue player is going to do the same thing. He can take one of his heroes and move it along the vertical line, or he could choose not to do anything, and then if he is in a castle, he would gain 1 health or 1 power up to his maximum. So at this point, he's already at his max, so he's going to go ahead and move one of his characters. He's going to come down here and try to work on this ice temple. So before moving on to the rest of the turn, the other thing I want to cover real quick is how goblins work. So each goblin tile is double-sided. It has a green side and a red side. If it is on the red side and a player wishes to move through it, so if the blue player would have wanted to move his hero up here to the yellow castle, he would have had to pass through this tile with the red goblin. When you pass through a tile with a red goblin, you must expend 1 power to be able to move through that tile, at which point then the goblin is flipped back over to its green side. If you do not have a power to spend, then you are not allowed to pass through that tile. So you could either stop and choose to fight that goblin, or stay over here, or you must choose a different path to go on. So, like I said, instead of going up here, he could have gone down here instead. The other thing that I want to cover real quick is idling. So if you choose not to move your hero, again, like I said, you would gain one of these 2 abilities, and you'd only do this once. So even though like our blue player here has 2 heroes in the castle, he would not gain 1 for each hero. It would only be 1 hero during that selection to be idle. Now that both of our players have done that action, we're ready to move on. So we're going to flip that card over to its completed side, and then we'll move over to the next player in clockwise order, which is going to be our blue player, and he will go ahead and make that selection again. So he's going to go ahead and do a by foot. So he's going to move one of his guys up here to fight this goblin. Then it would move over to the red player to do the same thing. He's going to go ahead and move one of his guys over here and activates this mushroom grotto. So this one says that he gets to move one of his other heroes up to 3 map cards. So we're going to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3. And then he will go here onto this one and activate this. So it says activate one of your heroes, or advance one of your heroes 1 space on the temple track. So he's going to go ahead and move him there. From here, then we have completed that one. So we'll flip that over. And it's going to go back over to our red player to make a selection again. So he is going to go ahead and do by ship. And so he's going to select this guy here to move to one of the coasts. And again, the coasts are anything that is not in the plus sign in the middle of the board. So any of the perimeter spaces. So he's going to go here onto this temple here to try to learn that spell. Then we're going to head over to the blue player to do one of his players if he wants to move one. And he is going to come up here to try to learn a new spell there. Flip that over, and then we're on to the last one for the blue player. So he's going to go ahead and choose by Griffin. And he is satisfied for where he's at, so he's not going to do any more movements. So he's going to remain idle. Again, none of his heroes are at the castle, so he won't benefit from anything there. The red player is going to go then, and he'll move one of his heroes here to this temple to try to complete that quest as well. From there, then we'll flip that over, and we'll check to make sure that none of the players completed a quest, which we did have the red player complete the movement quest here. So he's going to gain this benefit. It says he gets to advance his spell token 1 space on the spell library. So he will put 1 there. He can go ahead and place completed quests on the bottom of his card there. From here, then we're going to shift over the rest of the quests and draw a new one. And well, the first player is also going to flip their token over as a reminder that we won't draw a quest at the end then. As you guys will see, I'll explain that later. Before moving on, the one other thing I want to cover is equipping your heroes. So when you gain an item, you must immediately equip it to one of your heroes that has an available hand for it. Then you're going to gain the completed treasure quest card if applicable. Each hero can hold up to 2 items, and you may rearrange items among your heroes on your castle freely. If you gain an item but cannot equip it, you're going to keep that item near your player card, and you may exchange it freely with your heroes on your castle. Whenever a quest card is taken from a row, immediately slide the rest of the quest cards to the right and replace the leftmost spot with a new card. And you can only complete 1 quest per turn. The first time during the day phase a quest is taken, like I said, you're going to flip this quest token over to the non-quest side. And then the day phase is going to be completed. As we've completed our 4 turns, this last card will not be used for this day phase, and we're ready to move into the night phase now. During the night phase, players are going to try to advance on temples, fight goblins, advance the magic track so that they can gain new magic levels, and make it out of this alive. So first off, each player is going to flip their adventuring card over to the adventure side, so that is faced up. Then the first player is going to go ahead and collect the adventure dice, and then he has a choice. He can either adventure or rest. If he chooses to rest, he's going to flip his adventure card over to the resting side, and then he'll pass the dice to the next player in clockwise order. So our red player is the first one to go. He's going to choose not to rest at this point. He's going to go ahead and adventure. So then he's going to go ahead and roll the dice. And then he's going to resolve these dice in order as where you can follow the adventure card, and you guys can see this on the screen. So the first thing we're going to handle are the red goblin faces. Based on the number of red goblin faces that we roll, we're going to deal a number of damage to each player, going in a clockwise order. So in this situation, we only rolled 1, so the active player is always going to be the first player to handle that, so he's going to take 1 damage. If we would have rolled, say, 2 or more goblins, let's go ahead and say that we rolled 3 goblins and we were playing with 4 players. Each player in clockwise order would take 1 damage up to the last player who wouldn't take any damage as there was only 3 goblins rolled. And this is also going to be modified by the magic track. As you go higher on the track, those goblin heads are going to do more damage to each player as well. Now, when you take damage, you can also choose to defend by spending 2 of your power to stop all the damage done by the goblin. And if your health token ever reaches 0, you have become exhausted. You're going to flip your card over to its resting side, and you're going to return all of your heroes to your castle. Then you're going to reset your health to 6 and your power to 3 for the next round, regardless of your maximum health and power. You're also going to lose 1 magic level on the magic track. From here, now that we've resolved the goblin head, we're ready to move on to the next one, which is the power. Again, with the power, it works just like the goblin. Based on the number of dice that come up with the power symbol, each player, starting with the active player, the player that's rolling this round, will receive 1 power in a clockwise order. Next, let's go ahead and cover magic. So let's go ahead and say that our player rolled 1 mushroom. With this, for each mushroom rolled, you're going to advance the magic token forward 1 space on the track. This is going to determine the magic level, as shown on the bottom here, which determines how many spells a player can learn. If the token is at the end of the track, any additional mushrooms rolled will do 1 damage distributed just like the rest, starting with the active player and going clockwise. After we've resolved our magic, then we're ready to move on to the next step, which is these can be done in any order. So our players can choose to do adventuring by using torches and maps to move on their temples, and they can also use fists to attack goblins. The red player here has a couple of guys adventuring, so he has 1 scroll, so he can advance one of these guys 1 position on one of the temples. So he'll go ahead and do that. And he doesn't have any guys on torches, so he's not going to resolve that, but the blue guy does, and he's going to spend that. And each player receives each of these symbols for this. So the blue player would have both of these, and so would the red player. And then the blue player is going to go ahead and use the fist, as he's the only one fighting goblins. He's going to turn that goblin 2 times on that track to do damage to him. So another thing with the heroes in the temples, they can choose to forge ahead. So during the night phase only, any player who is still adventuring and who has a hero exploring a temple may at any time advance that hero by 1 torch or map by spending 2 power. This can also be paired with dice rolls and can be done multiple times. So this can continue going back and forth between the players until the players either choose to rest or they are exhausted. So when you rest, you're either going by choice or becoming exhausted. You're going to flip your adventure card over to its resting side. The dice passed to a resting player will be passed again to the next non-resting player in clockwise order. All of your heroes on portals, obelisks, or the last space of a temple on a temple track must return to your castle. And this is going to have 2 effects. First off, if you've chosen to rest, any hero on the last space of a temple completes that temple, and any hero on an obelisk is going to learn the spell of the magic level that the magic level allows. Heroes on castles, grottos, or on a space of a temple track other than the last space must remain for the next day phase, unless you become exhausted, or then all of your heroes are going to be returned to your castle. For each hero returned, you're going to gain 1 health or power. If exhausted, you're going to set your health back to 6 and your power to 3 instead. So let's say, for example, that our red player had completed his 2 temple quests that he was working on during his rolls and had chosen to rest during his turn when he was handed the dice. So at this point, he would hand the dice to the next player, and then he would resolve his resting effects. So his heroes that are on the last space of temples would be returned to his castle, and he would receive the effects for those. So this one here, he gets to move up his legendary item 1 space for his sword. And this other one over here, he was working on a quest up here, so he will gain this quest. He's going to slide this over and flip over another card. And then he's going to gather that item and immediately equip it to one of his heroes. So we'll go ahead and slide that on there. Now our little guy has a staff. And he would gain 1 health, or he would gain 1 health and power, or 1 health or power for each hero he returns. So we'll go ahead and move our health up there. Our power is already at max, so he would not gain anything for that. And his hero over here is going to remain there because those are not returned. And then it would continue going through the blue player until he chooses either to rest or is exhausted. So again, let's go ahead and say with the blue player, he's working on this spell over here. He's already completed the goblin and he's working on this quest. So let's go ahead and say that after rolling, he's done, really well. The magic has moved all the way up on the magic track, which is what he was needing for his magic level. And he just made it out of there with 1 health and no power remaining. So at this point, then he is chosen to rest. Let's go ahead and say that he rested. He would, again, return heroes that had completed their quests. So our hero here would have completed it, and we'll return him to the blue castle. He completed that one, so we get to move up his shield as his legendary item, 1 space. If he chose this, now he also would have matched that quest up there with the boomerang, so he could also have chosen to complete that quest if he wanted to instead of the legendary quest. It is your choice, but you can only choose 1 out of the 2. And then finally, like I said, with the hero being here with the spell, this is a level 3 spell, and he is matched that level with the power level that it is the power level 3. So at this point, since he matched that, then he can move his guy up to the 3rd level spell. Now, if the mushroom would have stopped here and he would have rested, he would have failed that and not been able to move that up. Even though he would have been completing 2, he chose to try to learn this spell, which is the little crab. So he must get it to 3 in order to complete that. Completing the rest of our blue player now, let's go ahead and finish that. So we moved our first hero, so we get to gain 1 power or health. So we're going to gain a health. We already advanced our magic track, so we'll return that guy and gain a power. And we defeated the goblin, so our hero will return there as well. So let's go ahead and gain another health. All right, so at this point, both of our heroes are resting, so our night phase has come to an end, and we're ready to move into the resolution phase. So during the resolution phase, you're going to handle a number of steps in this, and then you're going to be ready to start the next round. So we're going to move the magic token back to the beginning of the track. We're going to flip over any of the passive goblin markers, so the green side, we'll flip those over to the red sides. Any goblin portals that do not have goblins will be added new goblins with the green side up. We're going to flip over all the movement cards back to their active side. And then if the player has the quest side up, we're going to go ahead and discard the last quest, moving off, shifting the rest of the quests over and flipping over a new one. But since our player has the non-quest side up, we would not handle this round. From there, then the first player token is passed to the next player in clockwise order with the quest side up, and then we can advance the adventure track one space on the adventure, moving on to the next round. At this point, then we would move into the next day phase with the players. Unless this is the 5th round, in which point, if this is the completion of the 5th round, then we would move into the scoring phase. So I've gone ahead and simulated the rest of the game so that you guys can see how scoring works. So let's go ahead and start with the red player first, and each player is going to calculate this separately. So first off, the players are going to gain victory points for the completed quests. As you guys can see on this chart, it breaks down everything. So our red player here has completed 4 quests, so he's going to receive 6 points for quests. Then he has defeated 2 goblins, so he's going to receive 1 point for that, so that'll be 7 points. Then we're going to check our magic levels earned. So red has made it up to level 9, which is going to gain him 13 points, so that'll put him at 20. And then he's going to receive 4 points for each legendary item he found. So he did find the sword and the staff, so he will get 8 points there, which will end him with 28. Our blue player over here has gotten 3 quests, so he will receive 3 points. He has defeated 4 goblins, so that'll get him 8 points. So that puts him at 11, and he has learned 7 spells, so that's another 8 points. So that's 19. And then he found 2 legendary items as well for another 8 points, which will put him up to 27. So our red player over here is the winning player with this game, as he has the most points. If our one or more players end in a tie, then you would resolve the tie-breaking effects, which first off is the most quests completed, then the most goblins completed, the highest level spell, and then the most items, including treasure and legendary items. If there's still a tie, then the players are going to share that victory, as they are amazingly coincidental with their attack, all their moves. Well, I hope you guys found that video helpful. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you enjoy these videos, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it will help me to continue to grow and bring new and exciting games to you guys. And as always, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my videos and to leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I do take into account everything you guys say. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.